It's around 11 at night and a pipe bursts under the kitchen sink, water spreading fast across the floor. Everyone in the house is either yelling or standing there frozen. And then there's the one person who just goes quiet for exactly 2 seconds. Not panicked quiet, thinking quiet. They walk over, shut the valve off, grab a towel, and start working the actual problem. Meanwhile, everyone else is standing there wondering why their own first instinct was to want to cry or freeze or call someone else to come deal with it. What separates that one person from everyone else in that kitchen isn't experience. It isn't even intelligence, not really. It's something with an actual name, something almost nobody's ever heard out loud, and once it's named, it becomes impossible to unsee. There's nothing wrong with the person standing in that kitchen wanting to cry. That's not weakness. It's just a different relationship with the unknown. And there's nothing magical about the person holding the wrench either. They're not running on some special wiring the rest of the room is missing. What's different is something built, piece by piece, a long time before that pipe ever burst. Back in the late 70s, psychologist Albert Bandura identified something he called self-efficacy. Strip away the academic language, and it's really just this: the belief that a person is capable of handling whatever's in front of them. Not general optimism, something specific. The feeling of, I've handled things before, and this is handleable too. Bandura's research found that this one belief changes almost everything about how a person approaches a problem, how long they stay with it before giving up, how much effort they actually pour in once things get hard. Picture a kid, maybe 7 or 8, messing with a lamp that won't turn on. Nobody told them to fix it. They're just curious, wiggling the wire without expecting much. And then the light comes on. That moment has nothing to do with the lamp. It rewires how the kid sees themselves in relation to problems. The world stops being something that just happens to them. It becomes something they can reach into and change. Bandura called moments like this mastery experiences, and research consistently ranks them as the strongest source of this belief there is. Not being told someone is capable, doing it themselves. That belief doesn't stay locked inside one lucky guess with a lamp, though. It grows into something bigger. The way a person answers a much older question underneath every problem they'll ever face. Whose job is it to fix this? Psychologist Julian Rotters spent years studying exactly that, something he called locus of control. How much a person believes their own actions shape what happens versus believing outcomes mostly come down to luck or circumstance outside their hands. People who land on the "my actions matter" end of that scale don't just get better at fixing things, they're less likely to develop depression. They handle stress without it derailing their entire life. They stick with problems longer. This shows up across different cultures and age groups consistently. Nobody arrives here by nature alone. It usually traces back to one specific kind of childhood moment, where someone either handed a kid agency directly, or where nobody was around to hand it over, so the kid built it themselves out of necessity. A parent who said, "I won't give you the answer, I'll help you find it." Or a parent who simply wasn't there, so the answer had to come from somewhere else. Different roads, same destination. So does that mean the person with the wrench never feels the fear everyone else in that kitchen feels? Not exactly. They aren't secretly certain it'll work out. There's no invisible guarantee tucked away. They feel the same uncertainty everyone else in that room feels standing in that exact spot. What's different is that the uncertainty doesn't land like a verdict. It lands more like a starting line. There's a name for this: tolerance of ambiguity. The ability to sit inside a situation where the answer isn't known yet without falling apart while figuring it out. People who struggle with ambiguity need resolution fast. When it doesn't arrive immediately, anxiety takes over. Either they freeze or they hand the problem to whoever seems calmest and step back. Somewhere in their history, the fixer learned to sit in that in-between space long enough to know it eventually resolves. There's a piece of this I almost left out because it complicates everything just said. Leaving it out would make this dishonest. Some people who can fix everything for absolutely everyone around them aren't operating from strength at all. For some of them, fixing was how they earned their place. Approval lived inside the solution. Standing there helpless was, at some point, actually risky, socially, emotionally, sometimes literally. So a decision got made somewhere deep in the nervous system, without anyone consciously choosing it. I will never be helpless again. That's not strength. That's a coping mechanism wearing strength's clothes. The tell shows up in one specific moment. Ask someone like this to let another person handle something. Watch what happens. They can't relax. They hover. They offer suggestions nobody asked for. The thing needs fixing, not only for the other person's sake, because an unfixed thing sitting anywhere nearby starts to feel like an unfixed thing inside them too. But there's another kind of fixer entirely, and this one deserves its own space. This is the person who fixes things out of pure fascination. Broken things interest them at a level that has nothing to do with obligation. The gap between not working and working is one of the most compelling spaces in the world to their brain. These people will take apart something they already repaired just to understand it more completely. They'll ask questions with zero practical use. They'll explain exactly what went wrong in detail nobody requested, delighted the whole time, like they just found something beautiful. They fell in love with competence itself, not the outcome, the process. And spending time around someone like that tends to quietly recalibrate a person's whole relationship with problems, because what they model without meaning to is this: broken isn't permanent. Hands can go on a problem and actually move it somewhere. Maybe watching this, someone recognizes exactly this pattern in themselves and never once thought about why. Or maybe the whole idea feels distant, like something that belongs to other people entirely. If that's the case, this is worth hearing directly. The reason someone outsources their broken things isn't a character flaw, it's a history. A set of experiences that taught them problems are things that happen to them rather than things they can act on. That isn't fixed in stone either. The entire architecture behind self-efficacy is that it builds through experience. Small wins, tiny moments of "I tried and it actually worked." Not dramatic rescues, just tightened the screw, made the call, didn't wait around for someone else to step in first. That's where every version of this genuinely starts. Understanding why a person is wired a certain way is only ever half of it. The harder part is doing something with that understanding, because insight alone has a strange habit of becoming more material for the mind to circle, without ever landing anywhere real. The next time something breaks, really breaks, at an inconvenient hour, the kind that used to send you straight into panic, watch what happens inside you in that first 2 seconds. Not to judge it, just to notice it, because that 2-second window is exactly where all of this begins. If this felt personal, subscribe to QuietMind. This is exactly the kind of thing this channel exists to name. And if this made you think about the quiet ways people carry more than they let on, our last video connects right to this one. We explored 7 signs someone intimidates people without ever meaning to, why competence and calm can read as coldness to a stranger's nervous system, and why that was never actually about their character. It's already on your screen. Watch it next.